Discover Help presents Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Mr. Stress-Free Ratanjit S. Sandhi. This audio program is an unscripted and unrehearsed conversation between Ray and Ratanjit. It is shared with you in hope of adding value to your life. We encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety to receive the full impact of its message. Sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul to this edition of Stress-Free Living.
We'd like to welcome you to Stress-Free Living. Thank you so much for being with us here today. My name is Ray Samich, and it is my first wonderful responsibility and pleasure to introduce all of you to my radio co-host and my longtime colleague and my spiritual brother, Ratanjit Sandhi. Ratanjit, how are you today?
Wonderful, Ray. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. Always my great pleasure and honor to be with you. And we are joined again by a lot of our Zoom guests that have dialed in and are part of this. And we encourage you, if you would like to be part of our live program and be a part of our Zoom audience, we'll be happy to get that information to you. Matter of fact, you can even just pick it up yourself at our Stress-Free Living Radio YouTube channel. Just key that in, search for it, Stress-Free Living Radio. You'll find over 100 programs that are out there that have been recorded. And you can actually even see how we do interact with our Zoom guests during the show, before and after the show. Love to have you be part of that. Ratanjit, we were talking over the last couple of weeks about being workers, being employees, and how we have to be wary of our leaders and bring out the leader that's within us. And I was thinking about that during this past week, and I was also engaging more and more with young people, especially, who are very concerned about artificial intelligence and how that's going to affect their future careers. And I want to start with some amazing statistics. And these are, from very good sources. These are not just people that are theorizing, but these are coming from Forbes and Fortune and CNBC and Goldman Sachs and these types of reports and surveys. They're saying by 2025 in the United States, 85 million jobs could be replaced. By 2025. I'm sorry, that's a global basis. That's not on the US basis. They're saying already 25% of jobs in the world have been affected by AI. And the number that seems to be floating out there most, as I looked at current data, is that 48% of jobs by 2030 will be replaced by AI. By 2050, on a global basis, 800 million jobs that are existing today will be gone. And even within the CEO range, in a study that CNBC released recently, 49% of the CEOs today said their job will not be there because of AI will be able to replace them as a CEO of companies. So I wanted to ask you what you think about this.
Fundamentally, Ray, one thing which we have to always remember, that everything is changing. We are aging, data is changing, world is changing. You remember when we were young, in my case, going back to in 60s and 70s, there were jobs there at that point which are non-existent today, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there are jobs today which are not even known to people that there will be jobs like that. So we had some guests who were in their 80s, and they were asking, what is your daughter doing? Is she an engineer or a doctor or some? In old fashioned the wish list of parents in India was either to have their son or daughter become a doctor or engineer. And
Right.
and today, when I told them my daughter is a professional photographer, so that used to be a hobby at that time.
Right.
And
Right.
going forward, even the photography is going to be totally become, it seems to become obsolete. And because there are so many mechanisms, so many cameras, every telephone has a better camera than we ever seen before.
Right.
So continuous change is a fact of life. Even if you consider this big mountain is stable, is there for years, nothing happens. But the if when you go to the molecular and atomic level, there is constant movement going on in that atomic level. All the neutrons and electrons are rotating, moving at a speed of amazing speed. So constant movement is happening, constant movement, constant change, constant. So when we are looking for, I have to give you one example before we go this thing into a different direction. Computers, when they came out, and in 80s and late 80s, and we use compute instead of making slides and having slide projector, we made slides on the computer, and they were much more fascinating, much more you could do so many things with that. So we had a conference in my business with Colorado Department of Transportation. They invited all the engineers of different departments. We had a conference, and we set up everything that night. Next morning, 8 o'clock was the conference starting. So we set up everything. In the morning when we went, our computer was stolen.
Oh.
Now, what do? You have none of these presentations available to you. So obviously, I have to make a presentation from my heart, and that happened to be better presentation, more effective presentation than I would have made with those slides. So all this technology is basically nothing more than tools. And whenever AI technology basically collects the data and give you a comprehensive information based on the old information, but it does not have the creativity a human mind has. So ultimately, we have to, once the AI comes, the jobs would basically be done by human beings, which are more creative, original, and the jobs which we had them before. If you go back to assembly lines, people were doing the same task over and over and over again, and their mind was somewhere else. They were not utilizing their mind. Those things can be done by automation or computers or technology much better than a human being can do. Human being is a very lousy entity to repeat something which is done better than the computers. But originality cannot be matched by computers. So we have to tap onto our originality, our creativity to create the future jobs. Future jobs will not be what they used to be, doing something constantly. You have experience, you have knowledge which is obsolete, stale, and you are utilizing to fulfill your job, which a computer or the AI can do much better, right?
So I've done more research into this just to be prepared for this. And the types of jobs that aren't going to be affected, according to the experts, are the jobs where people use their hands. Nurses, for example, okay, where you have patient care, that can't be replaced by a computer. And then your technical jobs like plumbing and carpentry and auto repairs, electrical work, those kind of things. You can't have a computer wire a house or fix a sink. So those kind of jobs are safe. They're going to be using more computer technology, and that's changing right now. A auto mechanic uses a tremendous amount of computer technology and diagnosing problems and things, but still it takes a human factor. The other Most jobs, though, that are just people desk jobs, thinking, acting, administrating, that is the area that is the most vulnerable. And I like what you say about the creating. I agree with you. But at the same time, the reality is in the workforce today, most of those people are not using creativity. They are methodically going through the motions of what's in front of them and documenting history and looking at reports based on what it was, and maybe how to change A, B, or C to get a better result. But there's not a lot of creativity on this program. Over the years, we've talked a lot about the fact that creativity requires something very special. It You have to look inside at a very special place, maybe into that divine power to really unleash the creativity. So could it be that the secret of overcoming the fear of AI is that we have to become more spiritual? We have to better understand who the real us is, because if we just want to continue to do what we've been doing in most of our jobs, there is a very good chance that artificial intelligence will do a better job of it than we do. What do you think?
You use a word which is often considered to be related to religions, which is spirituality. So, right now, when we think of spirituality, and we basically think of doing more prayers, going to church or synagogue or gurdwara or temple or mosque more often, and doing our reciting our poetry or part or these things more often. That is what we call spirituality. That is nothing to do with spirituality. Religions, basically, if you understand them, if you analyze them, if somebody from the space intelligent entity alien comes to this earth, and that alien try to understand religion, he will understand religion as nothing more than schools created to understand spirituality. But if you are caught up in rituals and doing all kinds of things and believing God or this and those things, you will basically derail yourself. But if you focus on tapping on spirituality, most of the time, supposing if I join Case Western Reserve University and to do chemistry. So I have two choices. I have many choices, but the two which I want to focus on are if I totally adore Case Western Reserve and I focus on recruiting everyone to join Case, and I hate every other schools and spend most of my time in preaching about the goodness of Case, but do not focus on what I'm there to learn chemistry. I will basically waste my time. Mm-hmm. But if I have great admiration for my institution, I have respect, but I focus on chemistry, learning chemistry. Once I graduate, I will be able to have a meaningful conversation with another graduate of chemistry from Tokyo or Japan or China or India or anywhere else. And that is where, when we join any religion, doesn't matter, we consider that as school of spirituality and keep our focus only on spirituality, then any religion will teach us that. But if we focus on hating other religions, only defending our religion and segregating the humanity based on religion, we'll have nothing more than chaos in our society, which is what we have. So I digress this. And again, going back to spirituality, until you understand what is spirituality, we are going to end up practicing this old methodology, which is what we have been taught as spirituality as a religion. Spirituality is finding the divine power within this universe, within us, around us. And the true creativity is hidden in that divine force. When we exhaust our experience, our education, our learning in finding a solution for a problem, and that solution to that problem is very vital to our existence. And ultimately, when we give up all these things and we go internally and have the deepest desire to find the solution, we will find the solution through innate creativity, which is hidden in the divine force within us. So no technology, no AI would replace that within us. And what this AI is going to do is eventually take away all these things which we thought we were capable of doing. This is what I'm a chemist, I'm a writer, I'm this and I'm that. So ultimately, it is going to force you to find solution in the creative manner and creativity which is going to be tapped, which lies within you. And that is where your new positions and new employment is going to lie. Right?
Ratanjit, we need to take a break, but many times on this show, you have talked about the fact that we don't live by knowledge, we live by our habits. And we know what the knowledge is, we know what we should be doing, we know how we should be acting. Sometimes we accidentally forget because we aren't a perfect computer that continues to add more and more data. We forget some things. We get confused on some things. So that's a problem. And then the other problem is that we're not diligent with developing our habits. So we don't use that knowledge appropriately because we live by our habits. AI solves all of those problems. Artificial intelligence continues to not only gather and keep the data, but it does a far better job of analyzing it and of detailing what is the best way, what is, with the most recent information added, this is the way to act. What I'm trying to say with this is that if we're just comparing that side of our human capabilities, our ability to learn, gain knowledge, and analyze knowledge, we cannot compete with a computer, with AI. That alone is not going to allow us to compete because it will be superior. And then you add into that the fact that humans can teach computers additional facets. We can teach it how to understand emotion. So you can be able to communicate emotionally. Even though a computer isn't emotional, it can understand how to teach emotionally. So there's a lot of factors in there that we can't honestly compete against. When we come back from the break, I want to talk about what you've just said. I want to talk about the creativity that has to come from us within. I also want to add an element that we talked about pre-show with some of our guests, and that is the word consciousness, which is something, again, you and I have talked about, our conscience. And a computer has no conscience. It has no consciousness. It has no creativity. So when we come back, let's talk about those things and see how we can develop those that will allow us to keep our jobs and stay in control of these darn computers. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, everybody, we've got 90 seconds. If you want to develop a thought here, pass it on to us or a question.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Morning.
sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. How are you guys doing? Wonderful topic. I would like to say something. So artificial intelligence is called artificial for a reason. That's one thing. It's not true intelligence. And I'll offer an argument that comes from a school of thought from ancient India called Nyayas. And Nyaya is amazing. I'm actually taking a class right now, so it's really fresh in my memory. This school of thought defines human soul as having the following characteristics. Number one, desire. Number two, likes or dislikes. Number three, effort to fulfill desires. Number four, happiness. Number five, misery. Number six, knowledge. If I look at AI, the only criteria that it fulfills is the number six, knowledge. So in essence, AI will never replace humans. I can argue that with anybody, but I'll stop there. Let's see if anybody else has to say anything else.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who else has a thought? We've got a few seconds if you'd like to ask a question or give your opinion. Sana, I want to welcome you. All right, I guess we're on our own, Ratanjit. Thank you, Jakesh. Rakesh, thank you, Rakesh. I'm sorry. We are back on Stress Free Living. Ratanjit Sandhi, and yours truly, Ray Samich, with you today. Thank you so much for being with us as we talk about a topic that is really a buzz topic. It is appearing in all of the TV stories and in the newspapers and magazines and internet. People are worried about AI. What's it going to do for maybe not so much the generation that is assembled here today? Many of us that are involved in this program are, well, we've already enjoyed many years of our career, but our young people that are just graduating from college, that are still in the schools, what is their future going to look like? Ratanjit, we just had one of our Zoom guests that weighed in on it, and I had talked about consciousness, I had talked about creativity just before we went to the break in terms of those two factors that separate us. The gentleman added also the fact that computers can't show desire, they can't show a liking and disliking things, they don't exert effort in a particular area based on likes and dislikes. They can't show happiness, they can't show misery. These are human characteristics that define the mosaic that we all are based on the experiences of our life. And that's what makes life so beautiful, is that we go through all of these highs and lows, goods and bads, and experiences of all type that form us to be the way we are. So is that enough? Do we see that these factors that we've just talked about, adding consciousness, adding creativity, is that enough that we don't really ultimately have any concern? I mean, are we always going to be in control? Or are we always going to be superior because we're a living human being with these characteristics?
Ray, we have, I want to go back to what we have talked in many shows. When our brain, our thinking, our consciousness is operated under the human body mode, the direction of everything is to me, what is in it for me. So we are filled with fear, greed, and ego. So when you're looking at this technology or anything, you are always looking from fear, from greed, what it can do for me. It'll take away my job. It'll do those things. But when you are in the spiritual mode, in the enlivening force, which is enlivening your body in that mode, your direction is from you to others. You are not worried about what anything can do for you. What you are always worried about, what I can give. How can I add value? How can I make a difference? So if your skills become obsolete, you are going to find another way of adding value, serving, because your core purpose is to serve. So in the spiritual mode, you become basically a service entity. You don't become what is in it for me. So when we are all living our life, we are gaining knowledge to get more money. We are gaining importance, recognition, and title. All those things are in the greed mode, in the human body mode, because in human body is also constantly inundated with scarcity and fear, because it knows it is going to die. But it is the spiritual mode, the enlivening force within us, which is very secure and is always willing to add value. And your creativity, your new challenges your new directions become only available to you when you are in the spiritual mode. Ray.
Ratanjit, again, I don't disagree, but you've just stated an argument why computers are superior to us, because all of those things, fear, greed, ego, they cause us to make irrational decisions. They cause us to be confused and hazy in our analysis because those things get in the way. A computer doesn't do that. A computer doesn't have any insecurities. It's not worried that I'm not going to be as smart. People aren't going to think I'm smart if I say this, if I come up with this calculation. They're not doing this out of ego because the computer doesn't know it's smart. So your last comments there actually kind of say that's more of a reason why we should fear them, because they're based on logic. They're based on knowledge. They're based on facts. They're not based on ego, fear. They don't know that they could be turned off and that they could be, put out of service. They don't know they're going to die. We do.
The computer is only as smart as the data we feed in the computer. So if our data is all created by our fear, greed, and ego, we are feeding that data in the computer. We have not created data based on our spiritual being. You have to understand that.
I do, but that's kind of a different topic. Okay. I mean, what that means, and I agree with you, is that we are distorting some of the data that is coming through AI because it's being fed through a filter of fear, ego, and greed. And that's why we can get facts supporting any line of thought that we want to give it. Garbage in, garbage out. I get that. And that's a topic for another show that says, what are we going to be basing our future on when we're giving all this inaccurate, inferior data? But the point of today's show is the difference between a human and a computer. And do we need to be fearful of being replaced by the computer? And based on the last comments that you've made, the fact that we do operate in a mode of fear, ego, and greed actually could be part of our downfall, because we're not making good decisions about life. We're not making good decisions about our businesses and about our careers because we're distorted by what's in it for me. So I think that part of it is an argument that's kind of the computers win. I want to go back to the part that says the humans win. And where the humans win, it's ironic that it's not as a human, but I think it's as the human's ability to realize that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And what I mean by that is tapping into something that a computer has no ability to tap into. It has no conscience. It has no creativity within from the divine power. So I'd like to talk more about those couple of things here for today's show, because that not only is a way for us to overcome AI if we are fearful of it, it's not only a way that we can teach our children to overcome AI if they have a fear of it, but it's the better way to live our life. Right? It's a better way to add the highest value if we're in that mode, irrelevant of computers and artificial intelligence. Is that making sense?
What AI and artificial intelligence will do to human, which our religion have failed to do. They will challenge us to operate in the oneness mode, in the spiritual mode, to survive or else we will be always inferior to AI.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
AI is ultimately going to convert us into spiritual mode to
I
survive.
think you're right. I think you're right. I think to survive, exactly. That's the key. To survive, we have to be able to tap into the part of us that a computer no way can ever compete with us at. So,
Absolutely.
okay, so let's talk. Both of those are so interesting. Consciousness, having conscience, not consciousness, but having conscience, and having creativity, creative capabilities. Let's talk about more creative capabilities. A lot of people think that they are brilliant because they're creative. They've done some creative things. They've come up with an idea. They've written a song. They've written a book, whatever it might be, a solution to a problem. Oh, this was a brilliant solution. They invented something. Where does that creativity come from? Is that something that just some people are more born with? Is it something that is part of our human capacity at all? Or does all creativity come from someplace beyond us?
You know, all of us are creative when we are in the spiritual mode. We become connected to ourselves when we are. I'll give you an example. Supposing you are a gifted musician, and when you are playing in the Carnegie Hall, and when you arrive, and they clap, and you bow, at that point you are pretty nervous. And when you start playing the piano, and when you get into the real music, your basically your music, your creativity takes over. You are operating from your spiritual being, and at that time you are on the peak. You become music, and you have no ego, you have no fear. Only music exists. But when you finish that, and the clapping happens, and when you get up and take a bow, thank you very much, the ego comes back. You are not a musician at that point. You are basically an ego. So when you play the music, when you become the music, you are in the spiritual mode. When you take the bow and take the credit, you are in the human body mode. And you have the ego, which is affecting you. Basically, when you become in the creative mode, you have to get rid of your fear, greed, and ego. Especially, it doesn't matter whether you are a brain surgeon operating on a patient and you create a miracle and you bring life in that person. And that moment, you are not an ego. You are not a scientist or anything. You are basically using your creative incentive to impart that creativity and bring life back. But when you come out of that and say, oh, my goodness, you have performed a miracle here. So the ego comes back. So we have to watch this, that we knowingly or unknowingly operate in the spiritual mode sometimes. But we have
So
to do that knowingly.
that's the point. That's what I was just going to ask you. So how do we I think let's just before I ask the question, I would bet that most of the people listening, watching this, have maybe accidentally experienced what you just talked about. Getting lost either in, not playing a piano in Carnegie Hall. That's a rare opportunity, but just maybe sitting in nature, just maybe looking out into the sky, into the sunset, maybe on a boat, looking out over the waves of the ocean. We get lost in the beauty of whatever it is, in the tranquility of the moment. We've experienced something like that is just like a wow, that was just a beautiful sight to behold, a beautiful experience to have. So I think most of us probably have had that happen to us, hopefully a few times in our lifetime, maybe many times. They seem to happen kind of accidentally. They seem to happen without our effort to make those happen. They're an experience that we notice, but we really didn't create it. How can we create those? How can we knowingly look for opportunities to have that type of experience on a regular basis, hopefully with the agenda then to enter into that real creative mode, into that real, not only to experience the serenity, but also to link us to whatever lies beyond in terms of resolving concerns.
You have to fundamentally get rid of your fear, greed, and ego and park yourself into the fear, greed, and ego always comes from past or present, past or future. They do not exist in the present. When you become one with the present, you become in the nature, you notice something which you get totally involved in noticing and understanding and appreciating. You are in the present. But suddenly, when you are in the past or the future, either you are worried or you are happy because you have this and greed comes in you. It is very important to understand the spiritual mode only exists in the present. It does not exist in the past or in the future. Right?
That's meaningful. It's very helpful to know that. But I want to replay what you said because I want to
get there.
Yeah, how do we get there? You said we have to escape fear, greed, and ego. We can't operate with those. And then you said we have to be in the present. I get that. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to is that a mindset? Is that me telling my brain, stop acting this way and stop thinking about tomorrow just right now? Is that something that we have to feel, deeper in our soul? I guess I don't know how to obtain that.
So to get into the present, you have to accept everything. Secondly, your mind has to be parked in utter gratefulness. Otherwise, you cannot go into the present. Two aspects, acceptance and gratefulness, will park you into the present.
Okay. And actually probably also eliminate those other factors too. If I'm accepting just the way it is right now, I'm not blaming anybody else. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying this is it. If I'm in a grateful mode, I'm thrilled with
acceptance is very, very difficult to comprehend and understand. A lot of people say, okay, if I'm taken advantage of, should I accept it? No. Acceptance means you have to be present. Whatever cards you are dealt with, if the cards are bad or good, either you criticize them, you are disappointed, oh, bad, but you have to play the game with the cards you are dealt with. So until you accept the cards you are dealt with, you cannot play the game.
That's good.
Chances
All
of winning only happens when you play the game.
right. We are going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and I want to talk about our conscience and see if that also is a major separator that we can always win over the AI because we have conscience within us. We'll be back on Stress Free Living in just a moment. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a comment for us or a question, please do share. Go ahead, Rakesh. Nobody else is opening, so you're on.
Okay, all right. Well, nobody's saying anything. So, yeah, so I mean, very interesting. I think the 2 points that Ratanjit ji made was really on the money in my mind. And one was about, this creativity. The example he gave of his presentation, that hits home big time to me because uh, that's the difference between humans and machines. It's for example, let's say we have 10 supercomputers sitting in the same room, and 10 different people go to these 10 computers and ask the same questions. They will all 10 computers will spit out, let's say chat GPT, exact same answers. It's not going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is also an essence of difference between humans and any machine that humans create. The other point that Ratanjit ji made was also really, really important is, what goes in, comes out in machines. That's not the case with humans. Whatever goes in our heads, we process it, we analyze it, we have our own individual understanding of it. That's not the case with ChatGPT or any other AI. So there are some very critical differences in the way I look at it. And so I don't think we should be really, worried about anything. Like the aspects that we need to worry about is that something like AI or ChatGPT has a real risk of decreasing human creativity. Just like, having computers have made kids can do their homework, they can do a search and they can do their homework. It doesn't make them to think.
We are back on Stress Free Living. Thank you so much for being with us here today, having always engaging and interesting conversations with the members of our Zoom audience. And we encourage you again to be a part of that if you would like to for a future show. Just go out to our YouTube channel, Stress Free Living Radio, and you can get that Zoom link. Ratanjit, we only have a few minutes left. I promise to come back. We can take this in so many different areas, but I want to talk about the conscience. And as just of a bit of a prelude on it, it's a word that you and I have agreed has been omitted from society in many ways, and I think that's by design. I don't think I'm just being paranoid on there. I think that the powers to be that are encouraging us to buy things and do things and act certain ways, I don't think they want us to tap into our conscience that perhaps our generation was taught us at an early age was so important. Let your conscience be your guide was a phrase that I had heard all the time. You know what's right and wrong in your conscience. You know if you feel bad about a certain thing or feel good about it, it's your conscience talking to you. That can never be put into a computer. That is something that is unique to us as living creatures. Does it conscience also come from our spiritual side? Is that where that comes from? From the deeper knowledge of who we really are?
Consciousness is our acute awareness, which is what is consciousness. So once we are in the human body mode, we are aware of our knowledge, our past, our future, our history, what we have read, and so forth. our consciousness is basically based on those factors. The true consciousness does not come to us, the true awareness does not come to us until we tap into our real us and tap into the power which enlivens us.
I apologize because if I've miscommunicated, I'm not talking about consciousness. We've done shows on consciousness too, okay? Awareness. I'm talking about conscience, okay? I'm talking about that.
Conscience is basically, there are two kinds of conscience. Conscience comes from brain, conscience comes from heart.
That's the part I'm talking about, okay?
Maybe it's a part of from brain. I'm always doing the right thing. Egoic. I'm complying with the law. I'm complying with this. But the heartfelt consciousness go far beyond the laws and far beyond the things, and you basically end up doing the right things. The conscious, brain conscious, you do the right thing when somebody's watching you, when you are on the stage, you speak the right language when somebody's listening, you do the right thing when somebody's watching. The inner conscious, the conscious which comes from your heart, from your soul, you do the right things when nobody's watching.
That's the conscience that I'm referring to. That's the element that I was trying to talk about here, is the part that says, even if nobody is giving me credit, even if I'm not being, I'm not in trouble with the law, or I'm not being praised by the law because I've lived within the law, I'm talking about the part that is in me when nobody is looking, when nobody's aware of what I've done or haven't done. And I'm saying I'm at peace with myself because I know that I did it the right way. I did the proper thing. That's the conscience I'm talking about. And again, it's not talked about much anymore. I think it's been deliberately omitted from our world, but it needs to be talked about. And I think in this conversation with AI, I think it's a critical factor, because computers have no conscience. They have no moral code. They have no ethics. Their ethics are only what's fed into it. So if you have a thief that's feeding data how to rob a bank, or how to hack into a casino bank account and steal hundreds of millions of dollars, there's no ethics involved. It's simply being, improper data coming in that's going to give it a solution based on that data coming out. There's no guideline there. And if we don't have that guideline, then what good are we?
Unfortunately, our entire society, our education system, our law, all are governed by our brain power. They are not run or dictated by our heart, our conscious, real conscious. And that's why we become habituated. We develop a habit of following the logic, the brain conscious. And we don't have the habit of following the real heart conscious. So until we follow the true conscious from the heart, we cannot really operate and compete in the world where AI is dominating.
And you use the phrase, and I know what you mean when you say from the heart. I get that. Our love is from the heart, our true feelings are from the heart. But we know, scientifically, it's not the heart. The heart is simply pumping blood, but we call it that, and I'm with you. Is that what we refer to as the heart when you and I have this conversation? Is that from a spiritual place? Is that from the oneness place?
Yes, spiritual. Basically, we use these words. They are confusing.
Right.
And basically, we are talking about the in the body mode and in the spiritual mode. In the spiritual mode, the real conscious exists. In the body mode, the body conscious exists, which is direction is towards me, what is in it good for me. Whereas the real conscious, the spiritual conscious, is always serving, giving, and loving. Right?
As you said earlier, to wrap this up in just a few short words, if we don't tap into that, that is our survival. That is the way that we will always be able to dominate over the machines. Ratanjit, thank you. This has been such an interesting conversation. Appreciate your sharing all of your great thoughts. Live love, wisdom with us today. Thank you to all of our guests. Thank you for however you are watching or listening to our show. We appreciate you. Hope that we've added value to your life. Remember, we're all playing the same game. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, took that right to 10 o'clock. All right, now everybody, it's your turn. You can unmute. We've lost some people here along the way, Ratanjit, but we've got a few of our favorites still with us. If you have any comments, please share.
Hi, Sana.
Hi.
So good to see you.
So good to see both of you. Thank you for such a beautiful session.
Thank you. Thank
Hi,
you.
Sana. Good to have you.
Hi, Ray. Thank you. That point of time, my microphone was off, so I couldn't respond to your welcome. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed. But I had a question, and so did On. So he's also participating today. He's here.
Hi, how are you guys?
Great. Good to see you.
So, congratulations for selecting a beautiful topic. I think this is a great differentiator, and this is a need of the hour where most of the working professionals have been, confused, not knowing how it's going to be, whether they should welcome the AI or they should be insecure about their job. So, I think the creative angle that you put forward, that humans still are better in that case, where the creativity part is there, and once you tap the creativity, you will able to perform better. And what I understood, you may correct me, that at least the AI will provide standardization. People who are mediocre and influenced by insecurity and fear, greed, and other items, they will feel uncomfortable, and they will have a higher standard in form of an AI output. So they will be forced to improve their standards, and somewhere I think they will be forced to park in the oneness mode to improve their creativity. This was, I think, very beautifully expressed in this call. If I'm making any mistake, please correct me.
You're right on.
You're right. Thank you.
And
what's your question?
Yeah. So my question is, like this is a software which is built by humans, and we also have a kind of a software that on which we run. So creativity is the point that you mentioned that will enhance our software. Can you help me understand with 3 or 4 steps that a man should take daily to improve this creativity?
Get out of your fear, ego, and greed mode, number one. And basically, as we said, acceptance and parking yourself in utter gratefulness will help you get out of the fear, greed, and ego mode. And suddenly, you tap on creativity by when a scientist run into a problem and they cannot find the solution, they basically have the pain of finding the solution. They basically concentrate on finding the solution and do not concentrate on the knowledge they have learned and they have acquired. And once you have that, it taps on to their divine power within you, which has all the solutions. and eventually you find the solution. And once you find the solution, instead of saying that, oh, I developed this, I should get an award, I should have a Nobel Prize or any of those things, you need to be utterly grateful that that solution and the positive format came through you. And it should make you more humble and more respecting and more kind than ever.
You know, the way I kind of see it is that creativity is constantly coming at us. It's like it's coming down from the sky constantly. These brilliant resolutions to problems and solutions to everything that we need to do. But what we do is we put all these umbrellas up. We put up an umbrella of greed, an umbrella of ego, an umbrella of fear, umbrellas of not being grateful, anger, and why me syndrome, and all these things. If we just remove those umbrellas and let that creative rain pour down, I think it would happen. I think it would just kind of overwhelm us with opportunities. But we put all these things up there.
Gratefulness opens you up.
What's that?
Gratefulness opens you up.
Opens you up, and that's it's not that we even have to accept, reach out to get it. I think it's pouring at us, but we're preventing it from hitting us. It's like the rain. When you walk outside, you're going to get wet unless you put an umbrella up. We don't want that umbrella up. We want that creativity to flow into us. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautifully expressed, Ray. I think
that is why when you have all the normal education, MS or MBA or all these things, the stats shows that very few of these people become entrepreneur. Most of the entrepreneurs are college dropouts.
Right. Absolutely true.
Right.
And Ray, I think you mentioned this question to Ratanjit ji in the fag end of the program, that if that is not the human heart which is actually pumping the blood, what is the heart that you're actually talking about? If you may allow, I want to express to that particular point.
Please.
What I realized with numerous sessions that I had with Ratanjit ji, and what I could absorb from where he was trying to point the finger at, was this is some kind of a divine internet through which we get these thoughts, and people call it the subconscious mind or the consciousness in some places. So just assume there is a divine consciousness driven by universal laws, and in this the heart of that consciousness can be referred as the heart. It's not the human. So every time you park yourself into that consciousness or that divine internet, that is the time when you get these answers. So parking yourself there, which Ratanjit ji also mentions most of the time when he makes his presentation, that his two antennas, if they are well pointed towards the divine internet, he is able to deliver the best.
That's why I have two antennas.
Yeah.
I've got to grow that mustache back.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Anand. Thank you.
Let's borrow his mustaches. They're more powerful.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Very good. Who else has something? Would like to add anything?
Well, I've been speaking a lot, but I want to just share with you two famous quotes on intelligence by Albert Einstein. So one of the quote was that the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. And once again, I gave you an analogy of 10 different people going to 10 different machines, asking the exact same question. The machine is going to give them the exact 10 answers. That's an essential difference. The other thing he said was, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. imagination encircles the world. So, I mean, he's referring to the same stuff. It's factual knowledge is just one aspect of human existence. Our existence is, and I know Ratanjit ji has been talking about this, pretty much at every session that we had, and it's just way beyond any of that. I mean, even we cannot really fathom the depth and breadth of it, unless we really bring ourselves, to a point where we are without those fear and greed and ego and stuff like that. So it's just factual knowledge. Machines have factual knowledge. That's all they have.
Very nice.
Both of those are excellent. Thank you.
Intelligence is your ability to change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's an intelligence we don't use, most
And
of us.
imagination is more important than your knowledge.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are both brilliant.
I mean, I think those encapsulate, the essence of what we're trying to say.
Absolutely.
And one on a more optimistic note, I looked it up. It seems like, yes, we might lose 84 million jobs worldwide, but AI will also create about 69 million jobs. So the net loss is going to be a lot less. And who knows? I mean, we just don't know what human needs will arise that will need our higher intelligence of humans will be needed. We just don't know. So I'm not as worried about it, as a lot of people are, but I understand the concern.
Einstein also said, a person experiences life as something separated from the rest. It's like an optical delusion of consciousness.
There you go.
Then he says, our task therefore must be to
free ourselves.
To free ourselves from this self-imposed prison and find the reality of oneness.
Yes. And you see, all of these thoughts are actually embodied in ancient Indian Vedic knowledge system. And, it's not a coincidence. A lot of these great scientists of the world, they were actually reading ancient Indian books. That's pretty well known by now. And, and in modern day, pretty much over 90% of all quantum physicists openly say that.
Yeah, it's all the great people of the world read Indians except Indians.
Right, exactly. Less than 20% of people of Indian origin or people from India, they know much about the ancient Indian books, which is a real shame.
What happens is once you read something and store that as a knowledge, you talk about it, you write books about it, but you don't internalize that knowledge. You don't become that knowledge. It has no use for that. And that is what has happened to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other quick comment, because there's so much to say about this topic. We talked about consciousness, right? And so we're afraid that, well, Chat GPT is going to outsmart us and this and that. But this oneness that Ratanjit ji talks about, all the time, and this consciousness, there's one supreme consciousness according to ancient Indian thought, which makes a lot of sense. Like, one of our guests mentioned, call that this network, right? A divine network. And there's a lot of evidence from, great scientific discoveries that most of these scientists got these ideas when they were in kind of just in a thinking mode, and suddenly it dawned on them.
Yes.
Right. So that is an indication that there is this, vast consciousness, and all the knowledge is contained there. It's just a matter of accessing it.
Yes.
Mhm.
And machines cannot do that. So that's another difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Ratanjit ji, if I'm permitted, I want to make one point regarding AI.
Go right ahead.
This is completely a summary of what Ratanjit ji has presented. So I'm just trying to sum it up in a way that, as we have fear for the AI, it is also a fear that we should overcome. Because in accepting the AI, what we will see over a period of time is the inefficiency will be challenged, mediocrity will be challenged. As a result, the human race will become more efficient and more in the direction of excellence. So mediocrity will be kept challenging. Also, a lot of misinformation uh, can be checked very clearly, because when you're searching, so that's where Ratanjit ji talks about gathering information and becoming a seeker. I think AI would be a direction towards seeking rather than gathering. So I think that is the role AI would play, and I think it'll be a very positive impact on the human race. And the jobs that we are trying to analyze right now may not be the correct method. What we would still see is that more and more people will be now deployed to make this engine more powerful. And human race has always done that. When we started with bullet carts, when we invented the wheel, the same fears were there. But today we fly jet planes for convenience. So AI is the current bullock cart in the technology frame right now. We will definitely make the best use of it going forward. I understand there'll be few accidents, because when you have unguided speed, there will be issues, but same will be overcome over a period of time. So that's my thought on AI. I think we should not be fearful, but we should accept this change going forward.
Yeah, I think there will be some social downside to this. Of course, humans are pretty, we adapt to any change. We are very good at that, and so I think it's good to be optimistic. I am. But I do see, just like the social media had a lot of social consequences, this will have social consequences too. There's no doubt about that, and also some personal, individual consequences in terms of, maybe efficiency may be increased because that's most profit driven. Okay, whereas creativity, will be maybe dumbed down a little bit, because they will just ask the question of GPT and get the answer. On the other hand, GPT will never be able to write a compelling novel, for example. It cannot do that. It can only spit out the information that's been fed into it. Maybe different combinations and permutations. That's what it can do, because that's a mathematical function. But when it comes to like individuality, like Ratanjit was talking about earlier, and creativity, there's no match for humans. And I think that's where we should excel, and that's where we hopefully will excel. But again, it depends on how you take it, because some people will just go directly to ChatGPT, get the answer, instead of trying to think about it. So that's what I'm worried about.
All right. Rakeshji, did you hear about today's news? The CEO of OpenAI been sacked.
No, I have not. Please tell me. Please tell us.
Yeah. So I thought probably we would be covering this point today. Very interesting thing happened between. So you have ChatGPT and now OpenAI as one of their strong competitors. And today the board of OpenAI sacked.
Oh, I did read that. I did read the book. Go ahead, but I don't know much about it. Yes. This is a guy of Indian origin and his wife. Is that the team that they?
I'm not too sure about his origin, because I was more keen on the reason why he was sacked.
Right. Please go ahead.
No, maybe Ratanjit ji has some information on this.
No, I don't.
Okay. So it so happened that this man uh, uh, got so lost because he was given this power, and he believed in his capability beyond anybody else because he was in completely uncharted territory as this software was concerned, which was called OpenAI. That he couldn't inform the board. He could not keep the board along with him in the entire progress. So the board has made only two comments: that they lost faith in him, and second they said was that only if he had updated us about his shortcomings, we would have helped him. But because no information flew from the CEO what he was doing, and he was in his own world, they had no option but to sack him.
Wow.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Basically, there is trust, empathy, and respect. These factors, when they exist in a person, nobody can stop them. You know, today's marketing,
Mhm.
we come up with advertising, promotion, gimmicks, and all that, basically is to earn trust. But if a trustworthy man gets on the TV and says, I can tell you this product is better for you than others, that's all I have to say. And he'll bypass all the glitzy marketing and everything.
It is definitely the most effective advertising. It's been proven over and over again. A
Yes.
testimonial from a trusted source is the best.
Yes.
What's crazy is that we consider somebody trusted that is a celebrity on TV on a show that we like, and they play a character that we like. So therefore, we think we can trust them to endorse a product that we're going to like. You know, it's crazy how we place that trust where it really doesn't belong. They don't deserve it.
You know,
Just because they played a doctor on TV and now they come back and they endorse a product and we assume it's a good product.
you cannot recognize a person with a trust if you do not trust yourself.
Amazing.
So basically, when we start believing these celebrities and all these people, indication of the lack of trust in ourselves.
Right. Ratanjit, I think you spoke on trustworthiness and role models. I think this is where you're hinting at.
Yeah.
We've tried to ape and become others, whereas we are unique masterpieces. Until and unless you don't discover that side of you, you are going to be fooled by whatever comes in front of you. You may get benefit also, but there's also a likely chance that you can be manipulated very easily.
This thing which I mentioned, the presentation in Colorado, in absence of computer I made, basically it was the trust in myself which was conveyed in that presentation.
Mhm.
That's why it became very effective.
I love that example.
Yeah. Anybody else have a quick thought that you'd like to share?
Hi, Sana and Arup, Anali, I miss your birthdays and happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
And thank you for saying that, and thank you for the person who prompted you.
So I want to congratulate you on your coming anniversary in case I forget it.
Oh,
No, you haven't. And let me also congratulate for the 57th anniversary that you're going to celebrate tomorrow.
It's the anniversary, big anniversary for Ratanjit and Dolly.
57th.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations, Dad and Mom.
Thank you.
Wow,
Great.
it's amazing because you still act like a kid and you've been married 57 years.
I forgot to grow up.
That's the best thing.